Stan and I just spent the better part of an hour planning for the NFL playoff picture. We're going to talk about that and more coming up next on No Buts About It. All right, Stan, thank you so much for joining us once again. You're a regular now on the show. We appreciate it. You and I just spent the last 45 minutes going over the NFL playoff picture, and my thing's blurring it out, but I promise I have everything written down there. The playoff picture is crazy, and some people may think it's a little bit too early to start talking about playoffs, but here we are. And we will get to that here in a little bit. But first, Spotify Wrapped dropped today. And a lot of people think about music when it comes to Spotify Wrapped. But Stan, I want to share some stats with you and with the viewers for our podcast on Spotify. So in 2025, fans listened to No Buts About It longer than 68% of other shows. This year, our show's growth outpaced 57% of other shows. And we also were one of the fastest growing shows on Spotify with a 500% growth rate from last year. Now, of course, it helps that we're a little smaller, but still 500%. That's huge. So I just want to thank all the viewers who have taken the time to give us a chance. And we will not take advantage of that. We want to continue to grow. I have big visions for this show that Chus and Stan sometimes have to reel in a little bit and be like, hey, look, they were still kind of small. But I do eventually want this to grow into something. And maybe we start talking about No Buts About NASCAR, which if you haven't been following the lawsuit and you love drama, follow the NASCAR lawsuit with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. It's insane. Or maybe we start talking about No Buts About soccer. Stan loves soccer. Jonathan, who helps us behind the scenes with Gathering News, loves soccer. Maybe you guys will host a show in the future. I don't know. But I'm just so thankful that this has continued to grow over the years into what it has. Stan, I don't know if you have anything you want to say to the viewers about that, but feel free.
It's been a fun couple of years. I think this is the most recently that I've been part of the No Buts About It show. But I remember when we started back in the college dorm room, sitting on those couches there with just your phone recording. It's been such a fun time just growing the show and being part of it. And talking about soccer, that's my second favorite sport. And the U.S. national team is going to try to win a World Cup on their home turf this upcoming summer. So maybe there's a No Buts About It show about that coming up.
Yeah, I want to continue to grow this thing. I love talking about soccer, or WNBA, NASCAR, all the great sports that can be mentioned. And we have Chus loves so many different sports as well that it could really become something big. But football is just where we happen to start. And we all love football, and it's going great. And hope it continues to grow. And with that, this is a football show. So I think it's time we talk about football. And there is a guy who I've got to admit, I was not a huge fan of this move. I loved that the Colts got Sauce Gardner, who's now unfortunately hurt. But when the Jets got A.D. Mitchell, I said, Stan, I don't know. I don't know if this guy is really going to do anything for the Jets. But you were optimistic. You were cautiously optimistic. And A.D. Mitchell had a fantastic game. So, Stan, I want you to kind of take us through not only A.D. Mitchell, but maybe a little bit of the Jets offense and what you've seen from this Jets team on what has been a down season.
Yeah, I mean, when we entered this season, the wide receiver room was Garrett Wilson and no one else. And to a certain extent, that's kind of the outlook we all expected going into next season. Most of the other guys brought in were either one-year rentals or they were rookies who you don't really know a whole lot about. But we've seen through this season with the pickups of Mechie and Mitchell how some of the rest of that wide receiver room has been kind of beefed up. And it's not just Garrett Wilson entering next season. Now you have Mason Taylor as a tight end who I think we all believe can have a big role in this Jets offense as a receiver moving forward. And then in the wide receiver position, you have Mechie Mitchell. You also have younger guys, showing a little bit there. I think for right now, I'm still just thinking about Mechie and Mitchell in other positions moving forward. But with Breece Hall as well, this offense, I think, has some juice going into next season. And Tyrod Taylor, that decision moving on from Justin Fields has been such a big part of that. With Justin Fields, the issue was these young guys, they were not getting the ball. So we don't really know what we have with Mechie, with Mitchell, with Taylor, when they can't get more than a reception or two per game. But now you've seen Tyrod Taylor, who's not a great quarterback, but he could get the ball out there consistently. That's what he does. He reads the offense. He does his job. He's not fantastic, but he's a great backup level quarterback. And he's been showing that for the Jets, right? He gets Mechie, Mitchell, Mason Taylor the ball. He gets Breece Hall the ball. And we've seen now what this offense can look like with Tanner Engstrand as coordinator. And I'm very confident with that moving forward, that at least we have the bones of an offense beginning to form. Now, we are still a far apart. We're far away from being where we should be as an offense to compete. And ultimately, it's up until you get that quarterback. Right now, it looks like Fernando Mendoza is the guy for the Jets. Muji has made it kind of obvious that he really likes him. A lot of the Jets GM, C-suite level guys have been going to Indiana games. So they're very publicly wearing Fernando Mendoza as their future quarterback on their sleeve. And with all of the draft capital the Jets have, I think it looks pretty likely they'll trade up to get him. But in the meantime, Darren Muji, the GM of the Jets, when he was hired with Glenn, he was the guy I was unsure about. I thought Glenn was going to be the front man of that duo. But Muji, for me, he's the guy who the Jets have to do everything they can to let his vision guide the team. Because so far this season, he hasn't really made a bad move. All of his in-season moves have worked out well. Getting Mechie and Mitchell have proven themselves to at least be future wide receiver room guys. Now, Mitchell, I think, might be a wide receiver 3 at best next season. I don't think you should look at him as a wide receiver 2. I would be very upset if the Jets didn't make any attempt to get another wide receiver in there and just rolled out with Mitchell. But you have a wide receiver 3, which you did not before the season. Mechie, to me, he's a great Z option to share with Mason Taylor. Those slot snaps, a lot of behind the line snaps, screens, things like that. He's done well in those positions. So moving forward, now you have a guy who can do that. We haven't had a guy who can do that since Braxton Berrios quite a few seasons ago. So I like how in the middle of the season, Muji has made moves to move the team in the right direction. At defensive tackle, getting Joan Briggs, who was, I think, the 4th or 5th defensive tackle for the Browns, had basically no impact, has come to the Jets and had a major impact. He's one of the better run-defending defensive tackles in the NFL right now. And he's coming from a guy who was not seeing the field in Cleveland. Muji sees the talent, is able to bring him over. Boom, he's having a big impact. Jarvis Brownlee from the Titans, he's not really doing a whole lot there. He was getting big snap counts, and he was going to be a big part of that defense, but they didn't see him as a part of their future. Muji goes, gets him, gives up basically no value to get him, and now boom, he's having a big impact here. Harrison Phillips, I knew Harrison Phillips was going to be good for the Jets. You knew it, everyone knew it, but it was just another solid pickup, the most obvious of those 5. And with those 5 guys who came in, there was really only 2 who I thought was going to work out when we got them, and those 2 were Jarvis Brownlee, because MC2 was not doing well in that position, so getting Jarvis Brownlee made sense, at least to get someone there. I thought he was going to share the snaps with Michael Carter the second before he got traded away. And then Harrison Phillips, we all knew was going to work out. But those other 3, those kind of diamond in the rough prospects, having a GM who could find those guys and basically not miss on any of those 5 this season, that's pretty good. Now, we did have one miss of sorts with Mozzie Smith, but I don't personally think Mozzie Smith was brought in with the intention of him being a big part of this team. I think that was just part of the Quinn Williams trade, the Cowboys trying to get off of a bit of a cap hit with Mozzie Smith. But overall, I really like what Darren Muji has done as Jets GM. I really want his vision to kind of lead the Jets into the future.
Yeah, so I think kind of like what you said, there were some moves that were just like, yeah, this is just a good move. This is just the Jets trying to prove themselves. And the others came up as kind of just, okay, if they work out, they work out. If they don't, they don't. Um, that Jawan Briggs move, he's a seventh round pick in 2024. So he doesn't have necessarily the athletic profile to really where you would expect him to make a ton of big moves. And he did. He has ended up being a really big part of that Jets D line. Um, the other two that I think people forget is A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie are both second round picks. They both do have that athletic profile that Briggs doesn't necessarily have. And Mechie with the Texans just unfortunately had some health problems, got buried on the depth chart, never really got a huge shot, gets traded to the Eagles, gets traded to the Jets, and now we're starting to see what can happen with him. And kind of the same thing with A.D. Mitchell, not to the same extent, but A.D. Mitchell gets buried on the depth chart. He has some big drops, major drops. But Reggie Wayne, NFL Hall of Fame semifinalist, Reggie Wayne has said, hey, I loved A.D. Mitchell. I thought he has so much potential. The Jets are so lucky to get him. He is still rooting for this guy, and that speaks a lot to Mitchell's character, I think. As much as I've kind of, been annoyed with the drops, I do think what Reggie Wayne has said about him definitely says a lot about Mitchell, and we're starting to see that. And if the Jets can bring out that second round talent in either of these guys or both of these guys, that could be huge for their offense. In whatever young quarterback they get, whether it's Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore or whoever it is, or maybe they bring in another veteran to help whoever they get. But that's in the future. That's in April. Let's start building now. And I think that that's a really good way to look at this instead of just giving up on the season completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to throw some numbers out there, but like, I think the Jets probably had something like 15 to 20 roster holds that had to be fixed this offseason that everyone saw going into this season. But now with these moves, I don't think it's nearly that much. I think you're now you're kind of whittling down. Maybe you only have 10 spots you really need to fill this offseason. And like looking at the draft and free agency, the Jets having the third largest amount of cap available this offseason, I think it's looking a lot more realistic that you can see a competent team from the Jets going into next season, a team that can have some sort of playoff hopes. Now, ultimately, the biggest factor there is going to be the quarterback. And we'll see if they can find that hit. Out of all the hits Muji has had, ultimately, if he misses on quarterback, that's going to probably mean his job in a few years. So that's the one that matters the most. But as of now, with the decisions he's made, I really don't have any big complaints.
Yeah, I think the Jets, I mean, we say this every year, it feels like, but I do think that they have a good foundation. I think they always have a good foundation. It's just when they start to build the house, what are they going to build the house out of? Are they going to build it out of straw? Or are they going to build it out of sticks, or like what are we doing here? So hopefully, what you go.
I do think there is a big difference with Muji's decision making so far because the last few GMs we've had, what do they do when they get their seat? They make a bunch of humongous purchases. They buy big guys at crazy contracts, and oftentimes those guys don't work out. But I really like how Muji instead is building out the bottom of the roster. He's finding a cornerback 3 on your roster in Jarvis Brownlee. He's finding a defensive tackle 2 and 3. He's finding spots that make an impact that don't require a lot of money. And I think that's a big difference there compared to the past GMs like Joe Douglas spending bajillions of dollars going in the all-in seasons, getting guys like Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard. And I think like Lazard, for example, he has a lot of comparison with A.D. Mitchell. I think A.D. Mitchell is better with getting open and running the routes. But ultimately, there are two guys with drop issues, right? And A.D. Mitchell is a much younger and much cheaper guy with drop issues to play wide receiver 3
True.
compared to Alan Lazard, who he played as a wide receiver 2, who is older, costs a lot more money to play that wide receiver 2 position. And in the end, he really played kind of a wide receiver 3 to 4 role for the team.
Yeah, I agree. I think those cheap depth is what makes a football team, right? Every football team can put together starters or strong starting lineup, but those injuries are always going to stack up. So if you guys can get good depth, I agree that will help you guys a ton. Let's talk about another team that's making a move with wide receivers, and it doesn't really move the needle for me too much, but it's a big name, Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen's a guy that we talked about at the beginning of the season. I said that the Vikings needed to trade him or trade for him from the Panthers when Jordan Addison was suspended, just to give them a guy to give Tay Felton, their rookie, I think that's how you say his name, a chance to kind of get acclimated to the offense. And they ended up doing it. But then Adam Thielen, I think, only has 5 receptions on the season. So he's obviously older. I believe he said he's going to retire after this season, which means he will likely finish his career as a Steeler. But I don't know. For me, I know that the Steelers have been looking for that wide receiver too. They have DK Metcalf. Roman Wilson was drafted last year, but hasn't really done what they're wanting out of him. And then Calvin Austin III has shown flashes, but I think he's probably more set as a wide receiver 3. I don't know. Stan, do you have thoughts on this move at all? It's a big name, but
I think one thing it can do is when you line him up there, I expect opponents, defending him to guard him a little closer than those other guys. So maybe he helps you in the sense of your field is a little more open. He's going to be probably a third option most of the time, a fourth option maybe. But that can make a difference, right? Having a better fourth option, a better third option for a team that's trying to make the playoffs and make a run, for a Super Bowl, if they think they can. For that type of team, getting a wide receiver 4 or whatever he ends up being for them, I think that's still a valuable pickup, especially because you're not spending a lot of money or trading for him, right? You're just getting a better option for the bottom of that wide receiver room. I think it's a good decision because it's better than no decision. He is better than who would have been in that position otherwise. He also is a guy who brings in a lot of experience, which as you pointed out, a younger wide receiver room with more unproven guys, especially with Roman Wilson, I think that could be a big impact too. But ultimately, I don't think it changes too much for the offense other than adding in someone to the bottom of the room to kind of help out with maybe the younger guys.
Yeah, I know that there was a tweet that said, like, Mike Tomlin will say something like, we need to start eating our soup with spoons instead of with forks, and we need another spoon, and it's a former 2018 Pro Bowler. And then, like, literally the day after that tweet went viral, they signed Adam Thielen. So we'll see what happens. The AFC North is still very much up for grabs. So it could be some little piece like Adam Thielen, I guess, who does make the needle move. But for me, I don't think that's the case. Let us know your thoughts, Steelers fans. Is this the key to the Steelers making the playoffs and making it past the wild card round? Let us know. Let us know your thoughts. Speaking of the AFC North being wide open, the Cincinnati Bengals defense looked so good against the Ravens. Al Golden, you're not out of the hot seat yet, but if you continue stuff like that, we can have a conversation about you staying, because they had, I think, 5 turnovers they created. We had the young guys stepping up. We've talked about DJ Turner all year. DJ Turner, who is not in the top 10 for Pro Bowl, for the cornerback Pro Bowl rankings right now, go vote for him. He is one of the best corners in the NFL right now. He's been playing insane. For a while, he was the only thing on this defense that was worth even watching. But we've seen other young guys step up. Miles Murphy, the former first-round pick, is finally making some moves. He had a great pass rush. He created some pressures on Lamar Jackson, which is not easy to do. Huge fan of that. We also saw some just young guys all over. We could continue to talk about but there was just so many great plays. Jordan Battle, he got burnt by Isaiah Likely, but he didn't give up on the play, and he forced a fumble out the back of the end zone. That was a huge, huge play, and that kept the Bengals alive. And Joe Burrow came back, and everyone's talking about, oh, Joe Burrow came back. Joe Burrow elevated this team. He led them to the win, which is true to an extent, but Joe Burrow didn't play well. Like, Joe Burrow played okay. He played average. He did not play Joe Burrow level, in my opinion. There were some red zone drives that stalled out because of play calling, I would argue, but also just Joe Burrow, he's got a little bit of rust. He's coming off an injury, and we got to be patient with him. But the defense saw that, stepped up, kept the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands, kept it in Joe Burrow's hands, and the Bengals are now somehow still within 2 games of the AFC North and able to make the playoffs. And going into this week, they have to play Buffalo, which that's scary. Looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I was like, that's a tough game. But Joe Burrow has done this, and Buffalo hasn't really looked super, super great lately. Both teams have some injuries. So did not practice today. Trey Hendrickson, he hasn't practiced in like 5 weeks. We have Terrell Bernard for the Bills, who is a linebacker, fantastic line. I believe he's a linebacker. He's either a linebacker or a CB. I always say it wrong with him for some reason. But yeah, he's a linebacker. I don't know why I thought CB. Anyway, he did not practice. Fantastic player on that defense. And then Joey Bosa also did not practice. So that's a miss for their pass rush, which I forgot to mention this. Against the Ravens, the Bengals O-line only allowed like 5 pressures across the whole unit. Some of the guys allowed 0 pressures, and I think Amarius Mims only allowed 1 at the left tackle position. Limited practice. T. Higgins, Deion Dawkins, and then Dalton Kincaid, who has missed quite a few games for the Bills this season, which Bengals defense has been awful against tight ends. So if Kincaid is out, that is very notable for that Bills offense. Stan, you obviously fan of an AFC East team. You see the Bills a lot this season. What are your thoughts on how the Bills have played as of late?
I mean, in a word, shaky. I think that's the best word to describe this team. And Josh Allen himself has taken, I think, a couple of steps back compared to what we've seen from him and been accustomed to seeing from him in these last couple of seasons. Sorry, I something in my throat. But yeah, I think this Bills team is definitely falling apart a little bit. And the biggest surprise to me has been defense, because every single year the Bills have major injuries on that defense. And every single year that coaching staff manages to coach up the backups and make enough of their scheming to still have a top defense in the NFL. And this year you just haven't seen that from the Bills. And they've actually, on paper, made a couple of improvements. I thought they would look a little better this year, especially on the top with getting a guy like Bosa in. But overall, just that team, they're not able to function on defense the way they used to. And with Joe Burrow there for the Bengals, that to me is a game changer, because now you have a weaker defense that just hasn't had a rhythm going on this season, and you're getting your quarterback back after coming off from a win in his first game back from an injury. I think this could be a much easier game for the Bengals than we might have originally anticipated. Now, on offense, Josh Allen, I just think I don't know when it's going to happen, but I anticipate one of these games in the end of the season, it's going to click for him. He's going to get back to what we expect from him, because he has the tools there on that offense. He has a good O-line he's worked with. Obviously, you mentioned the Deion Dawkins injury. That's going to be a major impact this game. But, Josh Allen still is Josh Allen. He's just not having a great season. So as long as he doesn't wake up, I think this Bengals defense will be able to hold them to at least under 30 points. And can Joe Burrow score more than 30 points in a game? Yes, we've seen him do it time and time again. So to me, that defense, you're just focused on slowing down the Bills. Try to mitigate Josh Allen as much as you can, and you should have a decent chance at a victory there.
Yeah, what really worries me about the Bills' offense isn't actually Josh Allen right now, which obviously you can't, like you just said, you can't count Josh Allen out, but James Cook. And James Cook has been very hot and cold kind of all year, but when he's hot, he's really hot. And this Bengals defense has struggled against the run all year. So we need for Barrett Carter. It's probably going to be Barrett Carter to step up and make some tackles. That is something he's struggled with all season. He's a rookie, 4th rounder, but he's a starter now. And he takes some weird angles. But something of note while we're talking about tackles, the Bengals, we've talked about it all year, have had missed tackles, high missed tackle percentage. Very few teams have higher missed tackle percentages than the Bengals. And if you look at it, a lot of them seem obvious. It's the Titans, the Saints, the Raiders, those not so great teams. The Bills are one of those teams as well. And so there's a chance Jamar Chase, we get T. Higgins back. They could have big games. Maybe Chase Brown has a big game as well. I would expect this to be an offensive shootout. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Bengals haven't done well in offensive shootouts lately. Bears being one of those big games that they lost that was an offensive shootout. But this defense is also starting to click. They've elevated Jalen Davis to be a leader. He's someone I really like. I've made a video about him and what I think he brings to this team. So I'm really excited for this game, and I want to see if the Bengals can compete and win. Because if they can't do that, then even if they make the playoffs, they're probably not going to do anything, right? But if they can compete against the Bills and beat the Bills, that says something about this team, and that says something very positive about this team.
Yeah, if I was a Bengals fan, the main thing that's making me scared is looking at that Steelers game from, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. And I remember going into that game thinking they're going to run through the Bills, because the Bills' run defense has been a big weakness for them. It's been the weakness of their defense overall. And I thought the Steelers were going to just pound the rock. They were going to get 150 yards with their main 2 backs there, and we just didn't see that at all. The Steelers really struggled against the Bills, and I think, and maybe you might disagree with me here, but the Steelers aren't that different of a team to the Bengals in terms of like what you expect to them from over the course of the season. To me, the difference though is Joe Burrow. You have a quarterback who can get past the scheming and focus more on the one-on-one matchups, find the open guy. You said T. Higgins is probably going to be back. If T. Higgins is back, that to me is the biggest game changer there, because I trust Joe Burrow to dissect an offense enough to find the right matchups. If we're still talking about a different quarterback here, who knows what that would look like, right? But with Joe Burrow, I think against the Bills, a team that's going to rely very much on scheming to keep him controlled, I think he can find the right guys.
Yeah, and really the playoffs every year come down to who is hot in December and who is healthy in December and who can make that run. And the Bengals are getting healthy in December. The obvious one is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is coming back. But Mike Gesicki also came back. That was a huge, huge grab in the Ravens game because it allowed Jamar Chase to get open even with T. Higgins out. Then you've got, Trey Hendrickson. I don't know if he'll ever play again in stripes. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he is actually hurt. A lot of people think that he's just, mad at the team, and so he's just dragging this out. Shamar Stewart should be coming back soon, hopefully. But if this defense can get hot, if this defense can finally click and say, "Oh, this is what it feels like to be good. Let's do more of this," which Al Golden has said that he had to kind of make the scheme a rookie level scheme, and now we can make things more complicated. If we can get there, that's huge. That's huge for this team. Even going into next season with a lot of these guys coming back on rookie deals or low extensions, like your Miles Murphy, maybe Joseph Asai gets a little extension here or there. They should extend DJ Turner, in my opinion. But I think if they get hot, I think if they get healthy, this could be a very good playoff team. And we've got the playoffs. We have the playoff picture here. You and I are experts now on the NFL schedule, I think. And so let's first go over. We're not going to talk about all the teams. But we're going to talk about the big ones, and we'll continue to talk about this as we get closer to the playoffs. But let's talk about the NFC West first. So, Stan, just to give a quick summary, Rams are 9-3, Seahawks are 9-3, 49ers 9-4, and then the Cardinals are 3-9. Cardinals have been eliminated. What team schedule going forward in the NFC West really sticks out to you right now?
I mean, the biggest one would be the Rams. I think they're dealing with a tougher schedule outside of the Cardinals. And it's kind of compressed, right? They have the Lions, Seahawks, and Falcons right there in weeks 15, 16, 17. They also don't have the bye week, which the 49ers have to sort of recharge and approach this super important part of the season. And the Rams have been a great team. We saw Stafford's worst game, though, this last week. And that to me, is the worry there because he's been great all season. He's looked like the MVP candidate pretty solidly in this game here in a big moment. He throws a couple of interceptions. Was it 3 interceptions and a fumble or something? I was listening to it on the radio. I was driving when the game started, and they didn't have the Bucs game on the radio by me for some reason. So I was listening to the Rams, and I was so surprised when I heard it at first because it was an end zone interception. Then I was watching the second half of that game, and I mean, boy, was that a rough performance from Stafford against the Panthers, no doubt, a team that I thought they were going to kind of mow over, right? So you're seeing them in this big moment, this big season. Stafford showing his first big rough patch right here towards the end of the season. So to me, the Rams is a team I'm mainly looking at because we have to see what Stafford has left. Now they're playing the Cardinals coming up next. That to me should be an easy win, but we've seen the Cardinals push teams, right? Even though they haven't been able to break as much, they've been able to bend quite a few teams this year. And we'll see if they can kind of push that Rams team, maybe get that snap they're looking for and get the win against a divisional opponent. The big 2 games for the Rams are in 15 and 16 weeks with the Lions and the Seahawks, another divisional opponent there. Any thoughts on those teams?
Yeah, so well, I mean, first of all, what you said about Stafford, that goes right back to what we said about December. Who's going to be hot? Is Stafford going to crumble in December? He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but also he's thrown 4 interceptions this season. 2 of them were in the last game against the Panthers, which is the weirdest team in the NFL, and we'll talk about them later. But looking at the Rams schedule, the Lions. Okay, the Lions are a very good football team. I know we have a lot of viewers who are Lions fans. I know that you guys know that I like the Lions. I'm a huge Dan Campbell fan. You guys, though, I'm sure you'll be the first to admit this defense has not been where we thought the Lions defense would be this year. And that's mainly because of injury, which again goes back to who's healthy in December. Terrion Arnold just got put on injured reserve. They have struggled to keep all of their starting DBs on the field. They have struggled to keep some of their linebackers on the field at times. They have all the potential, but potential is only potential if all your potential is sitting on the bench. And so looking at the Rams, they have Puka Nacua. They have Devontae Adams, who has had a career resurgence with Matthew Stafford. Kyron Williams is injured, but Blake Corum ain't bad. Blake Corum can do something decent if Kyron Williams is out. So the Lions are going to have to put up points on this Rams team, and I don't know that the Lions will be able to do that against a very good Rams defense. The Lions almost have to bet, unfortunately, that the Rams offense is so bad that it makes up for how good the Rams defense is, because this is a good Rams defense. Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, they have great players on that defense, that defensive line specifically. And so that first game, I don't know. I think that will tell us a lot about the Rams and their ability to bounce back after a big loss to the Panthers. Looking at that very next week, though, they've got the Seahawks, which is another very complete team, a very good team. And both of these are division matchups, mind you. So these are, or no, excuse me. No, it's not. I was looking at the wrong team. But the Lions is not in their division. The Seahawks are, though. And right now, the Seahawks are tied with the Rams. So if you lose this game to the Seahawks, that could be the division, depending how things work out. Depending on who they've played before already. Do we know who won the first Rams-Seahawks game? Let's look that up real quick, because that's huge too.
I want to say it was the Seahawks.
No, it was the Rams. Rams won. So the Seahawks need this win. The Seahawks need this. And if the Rams do win this, then that will help them kind of sweep their biggest opponent. Obviously, the 49ers can come back, like we're going to talk about here in a minute. But the Rams getting this is huge because that they can basically just look forward now. They don't have to watch the Seahawks. They don't have to see what the Seahawks are doing. I think the Rams first need to prove that they can beat the Lions. If they lose to the Cardinals, that's just troubling. But the Rams need to beat the Lions. Matthew Stafford's former team, kind of that revenge. We'll see how that goes. But I don't know. I think the Rams do have something to prove, but they're not super far in the hole.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about the Seahawks next. They have the Falcons next week, followed by the Colts, Rams, Panthers, and 49ers to end off. And again, you have a little bit of an easier first week there, just like how the Rams had the Cardinals. The Seahawks, you have the Falcons. That's a team you should feel comfortable playing. And then you have the Colts followed by the Rams, that matchup we just talked about. That Colts matchup, I think, will tell us a lot about the Seahawks. I like how all three of these teams, and we'll get into the 49ers last, they kind of have an easier first game. That first week, not a whole lot going on, but it heats up real quick with the Colts, followed by the Rams there. Any thoughts on that Colts matchup?
Yeah, so I think that Colts matchup is going to tell us a lot about both of these teams. The Colts were real hot coming into the season and have kind of cooled down a little bit. Can they compete with the Seahawks? Then also Sam Darnold. We saw Sam Darnold last year, kind of the same trajectory, looked really, really good, really, really good all the way up. And then they got to the playoffs and he kind of fell off. One thing we know about Sam Darnold in his entire career is if you can apply pressure to Sam Darnold, he crumbles. And so that is going to put a lot of pressure on this Seahawks O-line because I'm sure Lou Anarumo is going to bring the heat. And the Colts have some good pass rushers. They have Leatu Latu, Zaire Franklin at the linebacker position, Kwity Paye, Jermaine Pratt again at the linebacker position. They can bring the pressure if they want to, and it will require Jackson Smith and Njigba. He's going to be covered. They have a great secondary, Charvarius Ward. If Sauce Gardner's back by then, they've got him back there too. Cam Bynum has been a fantastic free agency pickup as well. So this will be a very interesting game for both teams because I think it's going to be a chess match between Shane Steichen and Mike McDonald, and a very good offensive coach and a very good defensive coach. This should be a very fun game to watch if you are a fan of football. Before I know you have your thoughts, but before we get into it, I don't think people should look past this Panthers game. The Panthers, people don't think of them as a good team, but they can play spoiler this year for pretty much all these teams we're going to talk about. The Panthers are still on this schedule for them. So, yeah, the Panthers just beat the Rams. I believe they have the Saints this week. Would not shock me for them to beat the Rams and then lose to the Saints and then beat the Seahawks. It wouldn't, because that's the way this Panthers team is. But Stan, let me know what are your thoughts on the Seahawks here?
Yeah, really don't disagree with anything there. Sauce Gardner, I did see an update that he was looking good in rehab, but he will miss some time. So it is likely, I think, that he will not be playing against the Seahawks. And that, to me, is a game changer because Sauce Gardner, what does he do? He shuts down your biggest receiver. So in this game, he would be shutting down JSN. Having the JSN option for Sam Darnold being, open, or at least more often open, that to me is a game changer there. I think Sam Darnold will most likely, especially without Sauce Gardner covering your best receiver, he should be able to keep his, career resurgence going into this game against the Rams in week 16. So I think that will be a win for the Seahawks, mainly because I don't expect Sauce Gardner to return.
Yeah, I will say that I know Sauce Gardner is the big headline guy, but they still have a good secondary. I would not be shocked. JSN will have a good game, I'm sure, but I would not underestimate this secondary that the Colts have going for them, especially if they're able to apply pressure to Sam Darnold in that game. And I think that's going to be the key to the game is what can Lou do to dial up some pressure against the Seahawks offensive line and get Sam Darnold on the ground, get him flustered a little bit. Next team, 49ers, right?
Yeah, they start off with a bye week upcoming. Then they play the Titans, should be an easy win there, followed by the Colts, then the Bears, and the Seahawks. To me, it's that Colts game. Again, talking about the Colts, that's going to mean a lot for them this season. And because they have this bye week, followed by the Titans coming up before this big game, I think it's not going to be as tough of a challenge as it would be otherwise. The 49ers are a team where they've had some big injuries, and Christian McCaffrey being their biggest player and also a player who gets injured quite often, that's always a bit of a question for them. But going into the end of the season, having a late bye week, it kind of works out well for them. It gives them some time to make sure everyone's a little extra healthy. Then you have a lighter game against the Titans. Hopefully they can rest McCaffrey and some of those better players in that fourth quarter against the Titans. You should be able to score enough in the first three to give them a little extra time. And then you have that Colts game coming up in week 16 that's going to make or break their season. And, on the topic of the Colts, they've had some troubles, as we've talked about these last couple of weeks. They've shown they've not looked like the Colts we saw in the first half of the season, fair to say, right? So I think the Colts, they're playing the Seahawks in 2 weeks, followed by the 49ers. That makes it a lot tougher for them playing these division rivals in back-to-back weeks who are both fighting for that top spot there. So I think this will be a win for the 49ers in what's probably their most important or second most important season game through the rest of the season.
Yeah, so the 49ers, I think, probably have the hardest schedule of all these teams. And like you said, the bye week and then the Titans, that's nice. That's nice little pickup. But then where the Colts are now, we think the Colts are a good team, so that's difficult. Not used to seeing that Bears logo and thinking good, but they currently lead the NFC. And Ben Johnson has turned that team around. And the 49ers have a lot of defensive injuries. They have a lot of big names that have been missing. And if they're not back by then, that could be dangerous. I mean, Fred Warner's out for the season. That's going to kill you all year. But I don't know. That Bears game could play spoiler as well. And as close as this NFC West team or this NFC West standings are, I could see that Bears game being really important, especially because their final game is a Seahawks game, which means it's a division game. Who won that last game? Do we know? I'm looking it up right now. 49ers. So the 49ers, once again, they've got that. So if they can, and that says something about the Seahawks too. The Seahawks aren't doing well in the division right now. If they've got a loss to the Rams and to the 49ers. So they're beating everyone else, but they're not beating their own division. So depending how this all works out, we will maybe see a tie situation that the Seahawks end up losing because their division record isn't great. But yeah, I think they're a really good team. It's just, again, can Robert Saleh, your favorite NFL coach ever, can he dial up pressure against Sam Darnold? I really think that's going to be the key to all these games is, can the defenses pressure Sam Darnold, make him feel uncomfortable in the pocket? Because when Sam Darnold starts to feel uncomfortable in the pocket, like most quarterbacks, he starts to make mistakes. And so we'll see what happens there. I do think, I don't know, the 49ers already being in third, that's a hard schedule to go. I think this division's really between the Seahawks and the Rams, depending on what this ends up looking like this week.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are still just as in this race as the other couple of teams, especially because all three of these teams are playing divisional rivals in these last couple of weeks, as most of the teams in the NFL, if not all. So having those multiple rivalry games gives them a chance to kind of get up on the scoreboard there, get some wins in. But right now, all three of those teams are in playoff spots. I don't expect that to be, how this story is told, but that's still a likely possibility. I mean, there's some other divisions in the NFC, like the NFC South, that they're definitely not going to have a second team make it, right? They're only getting the winner from that division, unless things drastically change in these last couple of weeks. But I think you could see a chance where all three of those teams make it through.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, that scenario still exists. I think the 49ers have a very difficult schedule with all their injuries to overcome. But it is possible all three teams make it. You're exactly right. Let's go into the AFC South, we've already been talking about the Colts a little bit. And the Colts are currently tied with the Jaguars. The Jaguars lead the division because they have the tiebreaker currently. They're both 8-4, but the Texans are the 7-5 in third place, and then the Titans have 1 win and 11 losses. So the Titans are out of it. But the Colts schedule, they've got Jaguars again, Seahawks, 49ers, Jaguars once again, and then the Texans. So the Colts, we've talked about them a ton because they're playing all these really good teams that are in playoff contention. And that's going to tell us a ton about this Colts team that has kind of cooled down lately, that has struggled lately. They struggled against the Texans. They struggled against the Chiefs. They have not. Jonathan Taylor has not had a touchdown in either of those games. The Colts Colts opponents have learned if you shut down Jonathan Taylor and put the pressure on Daniel Jones, they tend to lose. So, Stan, looking at these games on the Colts schedule, 3 of them are division games. Which of these games really stick out to you?
I mean, all of them really. There's no easy game in there, and I think there might be one of the only teams on this list where that's true, where there's not a chance to maybe take a step back and rest guys in that fourth quarter or a bye week or anything like that. You have 5 games against tough teams, so that's a big part why I'm not very hot on the Colts right now, because I don't know if they have what it takes, especially with Daniel Jones at the helm, to win as many of these games as they might need to. 2 or 3 losses could very easily take them out of this race. And we'll talk about the other 2 teams in that division and some of the easy games those teams have that I think help, cement this point a bit down. But with all 5 of these games, I think it's going to be super tough for the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts, and even if they do make the playoffs, they're going to be exhausted because they're not going to win the conference most likely. So they're not going to get that bye week. So they're going to have to go through this gauntlet and then go right into the playoffs against another really good football team. So that's something else to think about. It's going to be mentally tiring, I'm sure, physically exhausting. The Colts have a lot coming for them. The Colts, the way they've turned it around this year has been impressive, but they've still got some work to do, and we'll see if they're up for it. This is December football. That's what we love about December football. You mentioned some of the easy schedules. Jaguars. Liam Cohen has done some magic with this team, but they have 2 easy games. Obviously, any given Sunday, but they have the Titans and the Jets. And so those should both theoretically be easy wins for the Jaguars. And then most importantly, they still have 2 games against the Colts, who they currently have a tiebreaker over, even though they haven't played them yet in the division at all. So they could get the head-to-head on the Colts as well as having the division record on the Colts. We'll see how that comes out. But this Jaguars team is very good. This defense is very good right now. They've made some moves. They got Greg Newsome. They've got some good players on this Jaguars team. Travis Hunter has been out for a while. I don't know if he's coming back, but still, you've got good players. And if this offense can continue to not turn the ball over, that could be a problem for the Colts.
Yeah, and this offense has gotten better through the season. And through these last couple of years, I think they've shown a lot of how you could slowly build up a team over time. I think the Jaguars will be the winner of this division when all is said and done, and those Jets and Titans game will help them with it. The Bengals, and I know they're your team, but I think that game should be a win for the Jaguars most likely. And I assume who is?
And we beat them. Boom.
Who's playing Week 16?
The Jaguars, Colts.
The Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos. Yeah.
Well, the Broncos will probably be the toughest game. That and the Colts, of course, going out of here. But those Jets and Titans games and those 2 easy wins, The Texans have 2 easy wins of their own that we'll talk about in a second, but I think that should help the Jaguars do just enough to win that division.
Yeah, I agree. And that Broncos team, I'm not a Bo Nix hater. I really like Bo Nix. I really don't like this Broncos team though. I don't think they're as good as what their record shows. There have been a ton of games where they should have lost, arguably against the Marcus Mariota led Commanders on Monday night. Was it Monday Night Football? Yeah, I just I don't think these Broncos are as good as what their record shows, and I could see the Jaguars beating them, just depending on how things fall. You mentioned the Texans. The Texans have another very easy schedule coming here. They've got the Chiefs, which that's another game that's going to tell us a lot about both of these teams because the Chiefs are desperate. The Chiefs need to make the playoffs. And they are on Sunday Night Football against the Texans, and I think that's perfect because we get Patrick Mahomes against the number one defense, the hottest defense in the NFL right now, and that is the Houston Texans. That's going to be a fantastic game, and the Chiefs need to win that to continue their playoff hopes, or at least keep any sense of we are a playoff contender alive. If they lose to the Texans, I think that's going to be very frustrating for that fan base. The Texans also have the Cardinals and the Raiders, and then the Chargers, which is another hot and cold team, but I think that's another game that could tell us something about this team and should be noted on their schedule. And they finish out with the Colts. I don't know. I think the Texans could make a late run. I really think they could. With how they're playing right now, CJ Stroud is back. That defense is really starting to click. Will Anderson has been going crazy on the D-line lately. Danielle Hunter's been going nuts as well. I really think that this Texans team is getting hot at the right time and could make a run. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they've been trending up, and we talked about this I think 2 weeks ago on the podcast where they looked so bad at the beginning of this season. I thought they messed it up too badly. I thought DeMeco Ryans was going to lose his job. I thought they were going to fall apart. And the way they picked this team up and done the right things, Davis Mills did just enough to keep them afloat when CJ Stroud was out. Now CJ Stroud is back. To me, this team is a really competitive team, and that defense has been leading it throughout everything they've dealt with this season. You talked about those 2 easy games, but even with those hard games, I don't think that. I mean, we know the Chiefs don't have the record we'd expect them to have this point in the season. We know they're underperforming. I think the Texans should have an easier time here against this Chiefs team. I think they might be able to win by more than 1 or 2 scores.
Yeah, I agree. And that offense has been the problem all year, the Texans offense. And then, CJ Stroud gets hurt. It's like that's not good. Not good. But they've bounced back ever since CJ Stroud came. And they even got some wins with Davis Mills, which is important too, to steal some of those W's. I like this Texans team. Sorry, Colts fans, but I like this Texans team. I think that they've got a chance, and I think they would be a fun playoff team. Next division, I think. Yeah, two more divisions to go. I think.
I have the NFC South with 2 teams.
That's what I've got as well. Okay. NFC South. Buccaneers lead right now at 7-5. Panthers are in second with 7-6, which nobody saw coming this season. I have no idea how they did that. And there's a quote on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago, I think, where I forget who said it, but someone said, there is no football team in the history of the NFL with a winning record that is as bad as the Carolina Panthers. And I think that sums up their season perfectly because I have no idea what to think of this Carolina Panthers team. Bryce Young looks really good some weeks, really down other weeks. Rico Dowdle has kind of willed his way into the end zone a lot. Tet McMillan looks awesome, but this team doesn't look – J.C. Horn on the defense, he's looked good, but this team doesn't look complete, yet they're scrappy and they're getting wins. They lost 20-9 to the 49ers and then turned around the next week and beat the Rams 31-28. What is that? And like I said, I wouldn't be shocked to see them lose to the Saints this week. They already lost to the Saints once, 17-7. So, but they beat the Packers the week before. So, like, I don't know. I don't know, Stan. This Panthers team, their schedule, they have the Saints, Buccaneers, Seahawks, and then Buccaneers again. So, two very notable division games, and that's who they're racing is the Buccaneers, and they're racing each other for that division. But also, I can't call any of these games non-winnable games for the Panthers because the Panthers have managed to beat teams that we would say were Super Bowl contenders and then get blown out by teams that are going to be drafting top 10 this year. So, Stan, do you have any thoughts about this Panthers schedule?
Yeah, because of moving to Florida, I do end up watching a lot more both the Panthers and the Bucks than I have in past years. And I'd say with these two teams on the side of the Panthers, I mean, yeah, they are definitely the most confusing team in football. But Bryce Young has taken such a big step this season and had some performances that I didn't think he was capable of having this season. In some of those wins, where I just think Dave Canales has created a system where he's really able to shine. And watching the Rams games, the amount of times where he just had to, look at the layer passes, right, where the type of decisions he was making were just so simplified to where he didn't have to run around the pocket as much in finding his open passer. I just think this offense is built so well for Bryce Young that gives them a big step up here. With the Saints team, I think he's going to beat the Saints. I know you mentioned they didn't beat him last time, but I think he has what it takes. To me, it's the Bucks versus Panthers, those matchups between the two teams right there at the top of the division. That is really what I'm looking at going forward. And the Bucks, they are getting a little better. I think that's going to be a big difference maker for the Panthers. Can they beat a team with the Bucks when they get back Mike Evans, which may happen soon? Who knows? When they get back McMillan, I don't know if they can.
Yeah, I don't. Both these teams, like Baker Mayfield, we had him in MVP conversations at the beginning of the year, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Part of that is because they've had a ton of injuries. You mentioned might get Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan back, but even on defense, and you've talked about it all year about how shaky this Buccaneers roster is in terms of health and in terms of age and all that. It's interesting. I don't want to just be that guy who goes, but you almost have to with these teams because they've been so inconsistent. No one's Tet has been the major game changer for Bryce Young. After Tet, in terms of the passing game, there isn't a lot there. Tet has 826 yards. The other two receivers behind him both haven't crossed 300 this season. I know Xavier Legette, he's had some drops. He's had drops issues, which we've talked about. Two other guys earlier in the podcast who they had drops issues and they figured it out. So maybe Legette gets hot, and that's the thing. That's the thing that is the difference. But I don't know. If the Buccaneers can stop Rico Dowdle, which that D-line on the Bucs is very good. If they can stop Rico Dowdle and put the ball in Bryce Young's hands, I do think the Bucs win those games.
I agree. And one thing with the Bucs is they did just get back. Now I'm blanking on his name. Bucky Irving. They just got back.
Oh, yeah.
Irving. And watching this game this last Sunday, he was such a big difference maker to that offense. And I think I think this Bucs offense is very much dependent on him more than any of their other playmakers because the way he opens up both the pass and the run game as someone who they could kind of mesh between both of those, runs a lot of simple routes for them, but could still pull out a big downfield reception here and there. He's a player they need to give Baker those extra options. Even as they got Godwin back, Godwin did not look great. I don't know if you watched a lot of that Bucs game, but Godwin did not look like who I expect him to be on a given Sunday. Now, this was his first game back. Maybe the second game he could take a step up and look a little better against the Saints, an easier team that they're playing this next week. But I'm not very confident on the Bucs at all. As we said, though, not confident about the Panthers. This will be an interesting division to look at going forward.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Before I know we wanted to talk about the Cowboys here, and we're going to end up going over on time. But I do have some breaking news for Stan here, and all those listening later on, if you haven't seen it yet. Mark Andrews has been extended by the Baltimore Ravens. He has been given a 3-year, $39.3 million extension per Adam Schefter. I don't know full details of that contract yet. Let's get our little quick reaction to that, Stan. I mean, I'm a little shocked by it personally. $26 million guaranteed. Holy cow! He was scheduled to be a free agent after the end of this season. I did not expect this. I don't know about you, Stan, but I obviously being a Bengals fan, I interact with Ravens fans a lot, and they've been kind of low on Mark Andrews, especially ever since that big drop in the playoffs. How's he been doing? Let's get his stats real quick this year. 37 receptions, 332 yards, and 5 touchdowns this season. So, quick reaction, Stan. What is Mark Andrews getting this?
Just not a fan at all. I think this is a terrible decision by them. And I love Mark Andrews. I've been a Mark Andrews fan for a bit, but I'm pretty sure he's above 30 or at 30 right now.
30. He's 30 years old.
Yeah, you're getting $26 million in guaranteed money to a 30-year-old who's shown drop issues this season too. He's dropped quite a few passes. There've been quite a few end zone passes I could remember where he's dropped it. I think 2 weeks ago he had like 1 or 2 big drops in that game. I'm just not a fan of this. I don't think. And you said $39 million over 3 years for him. If they have I don't know. We have to see how they structure it before we could see how good of a contract this is. If they structured it so he's getting basically everything guaranteed next year and then maybe half guaranteed or about the following year, and then they could cut him after that, that to me could make this a good contract. But if the guaranteed money is kind of stripped throughout those 3 years, that would be a pretty bad decision, because I don't think 33-year-old Mark Andrews is going to be able to be even a tight end too. Like, he's taken a big step back this year. He took a big step back last year too. Like, the trajectory is going downwards with him. He hasn't been great since 3 seasons ago. And I just don't like this decision at all.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked by this. And Mark Andrews, he's terrorized the Bengals for years. Obviously has been a fantastic player. But I really thought this was going to be the year Isaiah likely took a step forward. And there were some injury issues, and so we didn't see that as much. But with all of the, mainly on defense, all of the fantastic defensive players that the Ravens have to extend, like, I don't think they've extended Kyle Hamilton yet, right? And he's eligible. Am I making stuff up? I'm pretty sure he's eligible for an extension. But they're going to have to pay these guys eventually. And so is there going to be a situation here where, okay, they've already extended him. Okay, they extended Kyle Hamilton 4 years, $100.4 million. But still, there are other guys on that team who they haven't paid yet, who I think they'd want to pay. And is Mark Andrews that important to Lamar's game? He's been his safety blanket for years, but 3 years for a 30-year-old tight end, that's a lot of money. And you're guaranteeing most of the contract too. That's big. I think this is a mistake by the Ravens.
Yeah, I just yeah, I mean, even in the Jets game, I remember he wasn't looking great. I don't think he really did anything against us, and that's the Jets. Like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. And now I don't know. Maybe he'll just ball out after this, but I doubt it. Not a fan. Sorry, Mark.
That might be one of the biggest overpays I've seen recently. Because like I wouldn't mind them extending him if it's not as much guaranteed, or if there's an option for them to cut him without taking a ton of cap, maybe after this season, or at least in the next 2 seasons. If there's no real cutoff option for them, this would be a terrible, absolutely terrible contract.
Yeah, this it's not on Spot Track yet, so I don't know what it looks like. But yeah, not a fan. Just that's all I can say. And it's not even because he's a Raven. It's just a bad contract. If the Bengals had signed him to this contract, I would say it's a bad contract. But we will see, won't we, Stan?
We will.
You wanted to talk about one last team, I believe, that I have written down here, the Cowboys. The Cowboys embody the getting hot at the right time mantra that we've been talking about this entire episode. They embody that better than any other team we have discussed. I would say they embody it more than the Texans because their offense has clicked. They've got George Pickens. They got CeeDee Lamb. They're both flying through the end zone. They making big plays. But more importantly, the defense, which has been the narrative all season with the Cowboys after that Micah Parsons trade. What will the defense do? They brought in Logan Wilson. They brought in Quinnen Williams. Overshown is healthy. He's making plays. This defense is a monster. And they are making moves in a weakened NFC East. The Eagles, 8-4. They've lost some big games here lately. The Cowboys are 6-5, so they're still behind them, but they've won the last 3. Eagles have lost the last 2. Commanders and Giants are both out of it. Cowboys schedule: Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants. Pretty easy schedule. I think the Cowboys can pull it off. I think they can win this division and make the playoffs.
Yeah, I've probably been the biggest Cowboys believer out there since they made those trades because I just think the way they went all in for the right people at the right moment, I think it's going to pay off well for them. And to a certain extent, they are mortgaging their future. I don't think they're going to be able to build great teams for the next couple of years, at least to this level, because of how much dead cap they're going to have these next couple of years. But I love the decision. I think we're seeing it play out so well. These last 2 games against the Eagles and Chiefs, both wins, 3-point wins. It's pretty big looking forward with them. And this Lions game we have tomorrow night, that to me is what I'm just so excited for. Cowboys are still Vegas underdogs, so I'll be putting a little bit of cash on them. I think they're going to do well. And I think against the Lions, a team that's kind of pointing in the opposite trajectory, they should be able to pull off a victory.
Yeah, I don't usually root for the Cowboys. I'm kind of rooting for the Cowboys because they've been fun to watch, and I'd love to watch them in the playoffs. So I really think they can make it. I think Brian Schottenheimer has really kind of turned this team around in some ways. They were good. They were good last year, but Brian Schottenheimer, there's just a new element. And we talked about it a bit last week, and it's unfortunate. But Marshawn Nealon, just the way that they've taken that tragic situation and given it a purpose, given them a reason to play football, I think that's been a big part of this turnaround as well. So, Stan, did I get all the teams we wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I will point out one thing with the game tomorrow night. It will be a home game for the Lions, so that could be a factor to consider here. The Lions fans, they are hungry for another playoff push. They are hungry to see their team can win a Super Bowl. So a lot of them still believe, a lot of them do. So they're going to be pushing those Cowboys verbally, getting that stadium loud in Detroit. I think you could see a situation where the Cowboys slip back because of it, but we've seen the Cowboys pull off big wins in enemy territory before the season. So I still do have the Cowboys as the victors of this game tomorrow night, but I just think it's important to mention it will be a home game for the Lions.
I think the Lions are going to struggle with their secondary injuries are going to catch up to them, I think. And having to deal with both George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb is just, I think that's going to be too much. So that's my thoughts. And I am trying to post the extension. Got it posted. Okay, it's up. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game. Stan, did you have any other thoughts on anything else?
Nothing more to add. Just especially with that NFC West race, it's just such an exciting moment of the season. Being able to watch how the rest of this plays out. Hopefully, one day I could watch my team in a playoff race at this point in the season.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping I can see my team make a playoff push here at the end of the season. I'm just glad I have meaningful football in December at this point. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you made it to this point, like, comment, subscribe, tell us what you think. Let us know what you think about the Mark Andrews extension. Let us know what you think about this playoff picture. Lots of big games coming up. We appreciate everyone for stopping by and listening every week so much. And until next time, go do something nice for someone.